If we can all rise and salute our flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Here.
Ms. Spadacante.
Here.
Mr. Leahy. He's absent. Mr. Leary.
Here.
Ms. Martin.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
We have a special order of business. That's what I have on the agenda here.
No.
No? Okay. Motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting by committee member Dave Conway, seconded by Jackie Doherty. All in favor of accepting the minutes and placing them on file, indicate by saying yes. Minutes have been accepted and placed on file. Permission to enter.
Yes, Your Honor. George H. and Irene L. Walker Home for Children for the amount of $23,279 to provide for out-of-district tuition costs for one student enrolled and receiving services as outlined in their special education IEP. Funding provided by Special Education Department budget, Special Education tuition account.
Move approval, Your Honor.
Move approval by Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call.
Sorry, I don't have it. Spadacante and Martin. Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Spadacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy. Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Memorials by committee as a whole. Moment of silence with darkened chambers. Thomas F. Murphy Sr., retired Lowell High School submaster, father of State Representative Kevin J. Murphy, and Lowell High School housemaster Kathleen Occasion, father-in-law of Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy and daily school teacher Norma Murphy, grandfather of Lowell High School teacher Kerry Occasion. By Regina M. Fattacante. Moment of silence with darkened chambers for Janet Tellier, retired Lowell Public School teacher. Yes.
And, Your Honor, that should also reflect not only by myself, but also from Committeewoman Connie Martin.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
We all rise with darkened chambers, please, for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Thank you. May they rest in peace. Any unfinished business? No unfinished business. Public participation? No public participation. We're doing wonderful. We're doing great. Motions by Regina and Fattacante, a report from the superintendent and the assistant superintendent of business regarding the overtime for custodial staff for primary day and election day, seconded by Mr. Leary. On the motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. It came to my attention that some people were concerned, actually, it wasn't the custodial staff, but some other individuals regarding what would happen for the opening and closing of some certain schools during Election Day and Primary Day. There seems to be some kind of issue regarding custodial overtime and what is allowed and not allowed, and what has been allowed in the past and not allowed in the past. I think we need to be clear about our coverage. Some people were concerned that their schools were not going to be covered, that they were actually not fully set up for Election Day. That was a concern to individuals who were working the polls. So, this is a cost that we eat because many elections happen in our schools. So we're stuck with those costs, whether we like it or not. Yes, certainly we do want to try to curtail them, but regardless, we are stuck with those costs because it is an election day and we are responsible. So I'd like to get a report from the Assistant Superintendent of Business, Mr. Lang, about how we determine what custodial needs we will have for election day, what those needs are, how we make determinations for overtime, so that we can actually maybe create a policy so that it's very clear to us It's very clear to custodians, it's very clear to poll workers about what will happen on Election Day. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I'm kind of happy you brought that motion forward.
Thank you.
Regina. This past election, there was overly concern about having an election in our schools. Well, every town, hamlet, and city in this country has elections in their schools. And there was also a concern, should we eliminate school that day? We have it in the past. I mean, we want to encourage everyone to go out and vote and vote for the candidate of their choice. And I think the children benefit by that because they see the democracy in action. So,
You know, Your Honor, this year, because I think there were 4 people who complained.
right,
And as a result of 4 people, this committee went berserk.
right.
That should not be our reaction to 4 people having an issue, especially when we have had people voting in our schools for more years than I've been on this committee, and collectively we've been on this committee. I think it's an excellent idea to have children in school the day of elections because children get to see what civic responsibility is about. Children get to see what citizenship is about. I have to say, we had a motion last week or a couple of weeks ago that actually sent a letter to the chief, LaValle, thanking him for the extra police coverage.
It was costly, too.
It was extremely costly because 4 people
Right,
complained.
right.
So we not only absorbed a cost, but the city absorbed a cost through its police department because people were concerned about what would happen on Election Day.
Right.
In reality, we have had election days come and go and had no issues.
Decades,
Right.
decades. And I was at the daily school, and the principal, Mr. Skinner, was bringing in classes at a time, watching the voting and how it's done, and watching people come in to vote for the, and it was an extremely huge election for our country. And the children benefited by that. And what's going to happen, it's going to be a domino effect. When they become voting age, they're going to carry on that tradition. So it's an excellent motion. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The next motion by James Leary and John Leahy, requested the superintendent to work with the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority and State Representative Kevin Murphy, Chairman of the Joint Committee on Higher Education, in order to create a training seminar for Lowell Middle School parents in order to address the challenges they will be confronted with when financing their child's higher education. The training seminar will include assistance in planning and education of financing options. Seconded by Mr. Conway. Mr. Leary?
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. Johnny Leahy and I have been discussing this with Kevin Murphy for several months. There's also Congresswoman Tsongas had a forum recently regarding higher education and the expenses that parents and guardians and students actually incur because of the high cost of higher education. So Mr. Leahy and I wanted to put a motion together with the assistance of State Representative Kevin Murphy to really start to articulate going to college as an option through our middle schools. And in concert with this, I discussed it with Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy and Gene Franco, that we're already beginning that process already as part of our curriculum in essence. We actually have a presentation at the Butler Middle School scheduled for, I think it's April 16th. I'm not sure if they got the correct date. That will be our first kickoff at the middle school level where colleges will be in the middle school. And I think that'll be a great opportunity for MIFA and State Representative Kevin Murphy and others, University of Mass Lowell, Middlesex Community College, to come in there and really instill that going to college is a must if you're not going into the military, and that it's an option for everybody. So I try to make that as brief as possible. There's a lot more we could all say about it. I know that most of our members here, Mr. Conway, for example, has just put 2 of his children not only through undergrad school but law school and can equally understand the high cost of it. I'm currently putting my daughter through school, and it's a challenge to figure out all the options you might have to put yourself through school. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Third motion by James Leary and John Leahy. Request the Lowell School Committee endorsement of a second higher education financing training seminar at Lowell High School, tentatively scheduled for February 10th, 2009, between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. The seminar will provide technical expertise to parents and students who are preparing to apply for financial assistance utilizing Lowell High School student service staff, Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, State Representative Kevin Murphy, Congresswoman Tsongas, and their respective staff personnel, seconded by Ms. Fatican. Seconded by Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess quickly, this is kind of an offshoot. The high school already has a college fair, if you will, and it's scheduled for December 9th, actually in next week. And what we wanted to do with the assistance of the aforementioned parties is have a follow-up or Part B to the process, utilizing some of the equipment, the computer equipment within the high school to help folks, once they have their financial information after taxes, take Part A they've learned in December 9th and take it to Part B so they actually have instruction from the MIFA representatives, from the personnel from Congresswoman Tsongas and State Representative Kevin Murphy and others from UMass Lowell, Middlesex Community College, et cetera, to help people go through the process. In addition, if they weren't able to make it to the December 9th fair, this is Part B to it, the instruction and availability of needed assistance would be made available to them. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? If none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Subcommittee reports. Community Partnership Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 1st, 2008. David Conway, Chairman. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Partnership Subcommittee met Monday, December 1st. The members present, myself, Connie Martin, and Regina Fatacanti. Other school committee members present, Jackie Doherty and Jim Leary. And school department personnel, Dr. Chris Scott, Superintendent of Schools, Jay Lang, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operation. And also in attendance was Christine O'Connor, the city solicitor. The members of the nominated members of the Council for Creative Solutions, we had some of them there at this meeting. There were others that called in and they said that they would make the next meeting. Dr. Pearson, Chuck Karagianis, Dave Turcott, Paul Georges, Michelle Hayden-Meehan, Timothy Golden, Mike McDonough, Robin Gallagher, and Dr. Friedman. We met, Mr. Chairman, at Mr. Mayor, at 7:05, and what we did was we discussed the idea of the Council for Creative Solutions and its purpose, and this was in response to a motion that I put on a number of months ago. And this Council for Creative Solutions would actually help to screen cost-saving ideas from various school employees, and we've talked about numerous times here that we are obviously entering some very difficult financial times and we need to tap into as many resources as possible. And what we have on this Council of Creative Solutions is a representation of the entire community, which includes UMass and Middlesex Community College and the business community and also the nonprofits. So it's a perfect example of everybody working together for the common goal of saving some money and also making the school system more effective. Christine O'Connor was there as the city solicitor, and she gave us some options because one of the problems that we have, Mr. Mayor, is that we do not have a template for this program. It just, at this particular time, doesn't exist. We're trying to track a school system in the country that does have it, so it would make our job perhaps a little bit easier. But in the meantime, Christine O'Connor came up with a couple options. The first option was to work through a local nonprofit, for example, the Lowell plan with Jim Cook, who said that he was certainly willing to do that. And the second option was to seek special legislative exemption so that the school department could actually give out the awards. And what we also talked about was a hybrid proposal too. And after great discussion, we found out that matter of fact, I think it was Mr. Leary, the suggestion was that we start off in such a way that we can be effective and make the program work. so that perhaps down the road we can, should we say, make things a little bit more complicated and a little bit more effective. In the meanwhile, that was the gist of the meeting. Ms. Fatacanti suggested that any member of the Council for Creative Solution could submit any ideas for that template, which Dr. Scott is going to help prepare. We had a motion by Ms. Fatacanti, and there was second by Ms. Martin, to request the Superintendent Scott prepare a draft document and template which outlines a plan for the design, the rules and regulations, guidelines, and implementation of the Employee Incentive Program to be shared with the Council for Creative Solutions for review and approval. And that was approved 3-0. And I believe that we must submit that to the full committee for approval?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think a roll call is necessary. It's just a report of progress. Ms. Martin?
Could I also add, because what I think we might also want to do is perhaps ask our superintendent to contact Mr. Cook. I know that we've been talking about the Lowell plan as a potential partner. Perhaps we could have Dr. Scott contact Mr. Cook, determine, I know that they've offered, let them know that we're very, very interested in moving forward, see what their interest is and what their availability will be. So maybe we can get that started at the same time where we're doing this other work.
I think also what we should perhaps do is at the next subcommittee meeting on community partnerships, we should invite Mr. Cook. I think that would be a good idea to have him there. So, I mean, it's not one of those meetings on the Council on Creative Solution in its total, but just have Mr. Cook there and iron out some of the particulars. Yeah, thank you.
Madam Superintendent?
I'll see Mr. Cook tomorrow morning, 7:30 meeting, so I'll mention it then.
I was just going to say that Dr. Scott and I will be at the Lowell Plan meeting, and will certainly remind Mr. Cook of his involvement with this. And Jim Cook is very important to this overall program. Accept the report of progress by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Leary. All in favor, signify by saying aye. The report has been accepted and placed on file. This meeting is going along so great, I can't believe it. Reports of the superintendent. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. Superintendent goals, which were in your packet. I didn't know if the committee wanted to discuss any of the goals this evening, but maybe just to go over big picture, just as, should I read the 4 goals for the audience? First goal, restructure and develop alternative special education programs. And this is a work in progress, and as we already have begun significant effort in that regard, and we will continue to work on that not only this year but in years to come. And as the work gets done on these various initiatives, on all these goals that I'll go over here this evening, I'm thinking that the procedure will be the same, that issues will come to the appropriate subcommittee, and we will work out details on various issues as we present. So in many ways, the 4 goals in front of you are very concrete goals, the work that we do every day and the work we do with you in the subcommittees. So what direction and what the end result will look like with any of these goals obviously will be dependent upon many votes from the committee. The second goal is to restructure the English language learners and English language arts departments to support the acquisition of English language for all students through response to intervention techniques in order to address the fact that 50% of our 3rd graders are still not reading at proficient levels. And as the committee is aware, because of the financial situation over the last 5 years, we've had to make many cuts in our English language department as well as our English language learner department. And we recently had a meeting with Jean Franco, Deputy Superintendent, and both of the personnel in the English language department and our English language learner department. And basically those 2 departments, one now, the English language learner department comes under student services, under Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy, and obviously the English ELA comes under Jean Franco. So we're looking at basically bringing those departments together and looking at what initiatives we have to take to address the fact that many of our children, although reading now at fluent levels, are still having difficulty comprehending. And they are the same professional skill sets in both of those departments, and we think that it'll be more efficient and a better use of our resources if we bring people around the table who can share the vision for how we're going to teach children to read and to write, regardless if their language is native English or if it is their second language. So I think it's a better use of our resources, but again, that's a work in progress, and we'll have many subcommittee meetings on that issue as well. Restructuring the Parent Information Center, Food Services, Transportation, and Technology departments in order to provide comprehensive and efficient services to our school and our community. And as you can appreciate, that's a very lofty goal, and one that it began last year, and we continue to look at it this year. And again, technology, that department being particularly hard hit because of the financial situations we found ourselves in. Most recently, as you know, we are looking at the technology needs of the high school and how the district resources can help out at the high school level, so that, in fact, we're using all of our resources in an optimum way. And we continue to look at and are presently assessing our technology needs, not only at the high school, but throughout the system. And we really think that it's important for us to look at all of these departments, especially now as we come into budget development for FY10, so that when we come to you with whatever proposals, I'm very confident that we do have all these departments as efficient as possible, and at the same time servicing both our community at large and our student population. So we're examining that. And the fourth bullet is establish a partnership between Lowell Public Schools and UMass Lowell so that our teachers can obtain their masters or their CAGs leading to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education licensure and principal and assistant principalship. And this goes to our efforts to build our capacity within our own school department, leadership capacity to support our teachers in their desires to become administrators within our system, and to partner with UMass Lowell so that our teachers can, in fact, get their license from the university. The first attendance actually was quite good. I think we had 50 teachers come, so we're really pleased with that effort. And again, these are goals that I put forward to the committee, and so that the committee knows these goals obviously were established as a concerted effort by your whole cabinet. We all sat down, and after basically working together for 5 months, really thought that these are the goals that we should look at and target. And this work, I think, will enable us to present sound budget proposals to you for FY10 as well.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question on the status of the CAGS licensing right now. I know, and this is obviously a few years back, but when I was attending it at UMass Lowell, the Graduate School of Education, they were talking, CAGS were kind of considered that they were going by the wayside, that system of licensure was kind of on the wane. And could you just tell me, has it found a new life? Is it going to continue to be accepted by DOE or ESSE, whatever they are called now?
Sure.
Sorry.
I'll have to refer the question to Ms. Mulligan, if you know Sue. I'm thinking it's still in place, but I don't know.
Absolutely. It's still in place and pretty active, because many of our teachers are graduating from UMass Lowell with a master's in education and they're beginning their teaching career with us. So in order to avoid them going forward for an administrative program and getting a second master's, they're offering the CAGS program. And they will, if they have a master's and wish to go into this CAGS program, at the end of it, will have completed 30-some-odd credits and be recommended for the principal, assistant principal license. So yes, it's active and it's being offered by the university.
I hadn't heard that it had a short life, so,
It was several years ago.
okay.
But that's what the professors have been kind of counseling people towards a traditional master's because it was thought that tax was going to be eliminated by.
Right.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anybody else like to? Ms. Dougherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to comment. I think that as someone, you know, if you've been here 5 months, it's difficult to really prioritize when I think there are so many needs that we have that we want to focus on. And I want to commend you because I think you've done a good job of really looking at some of the most important pieces to start tackling. And I know the alternative special education programs, we've already made some moves in that direction. It's certainly something that we've been aware has been a growing issue in the district. How do we meet the needs of these children and provide them a classroom setting that works for them? And I think that we're working very steadily in that direction. That's good. I also think looking at our English language learners and combining that work with the ELA work is very important. Because as we look at our MCAS scores, we see that that subgroup is the one that is really, you know, one of the groups that's really struggling. And it is a challenge we face as a district with a very high population of students who do not come to us with English as their first language. So I think, and the one with the Parent Information Center, as you mentioned, it's something that started in the spring. I really hope that we can grow that. My vision for the Parent Information Center, one-stop shopping for our families, a resource center for families that will really be the welcoming face of the school district. So I look forward to more discussion as we fine-tooth these goals and you kind of, you know, lay them out for us in different stages. But I think it's a good start. And we asked for goals in December, and you're right on time. So thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Conway?
Just very briefly, I also want to congratulate Dr. Scott because, once again, this is a very, very complicated school system. It has so many different groups of individuals, so many issues, and obviously a lot of positive things in our school system too, needless to say, but it's a very complicated one. And to see this on one page where you're zeroing in on, I think, 4 areas that are extremely important, and I love that word restructure. I think that's extremely important. And I also, in the last one too, the partnerships, developing a stronger relationship within the community, and I think that's extremely important too. And I think if we can take these goals as Ms. Dougherty said, and we'll see these goals mapped out in more detail as time goes on, how it unfolds, I think that I think we have some exciting times ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Madam Superintendent.
Mayor, I would also like to, just to inform the committee that the goals in front of you not only are the result of the work of myself and your entire cabinet, but it really is a response to listening to our teachers and to our principals as well. We've basically, at this point in time, Paul Georges and I have visited and listened to our staff at approximately 22 of our schools. And much of what is reflected here is the day-to-day work that we do and in response to what people are telling us. So it's been very clear. I do take credit for listening, and this is what people have told us.
I would just like to just weigh in just briefly. I think these are 4 very important goals, and it shows me, as the mayor and the school committee, that these goals will certainly strengthen the Lowell Public Schools. Vision, bold, innovative, and the willingness to see something needs to be changed and have that vision and leadership to bring it forward. And Madam Superintendent, I as the mayor and the school committee will work with you hand in hand to accomplish your goals and just to restructure the English language learners and restructure the alternative special education program is immense. is immense, and I really applaud you for bringing this forward. Any other discussion? Yes, Ms.
I make a
Mattakane.
motion, Your Honor, to accept the goals as presented by the superintendent.
Motion to accept the goals presented by the superintendent by Ms. Vaticani, seconded by Mr. Conway. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those goals have been accepted and placed on file. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, Your Honor. A request to purchase varsity football game jerseys. Athletic Director James DeProfio has reported to me that several parents of senior football players at Lowell High School would like to purchase their game jersey for their children as a keepsake of their high school sports career. It is my understanding that these parents are willing to pay the total cost for a new replacement game jersey as not to impact the high school sports program's budget. Athletic Director DeProfio and Headmaster Samaras are in favor of approving this request as it will have no financial impact on the high school program, and there is adequate time to purchase the replacement game jerseys before the next football season. If the school committee were inclined to grant this request, I recommend the following actions be taken. A vote to declare the varsity game jerseys of senior football players at Lowell High School surplus, and to vote authorizing the sale of the varsity game jersey of senior football players at the cost of the replacement game jersey.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules, please. The matter of which would be to take up the vote to declare the 26 used basketball game jerseys as surplus.
As surplus? Now, are we still on we're still on the high school football jerseys?
We're on DeProfio.
Can we take
Well,
that
sorry.
first?
I have two of them in front of me.
Okay, that's okay.
So,
Right now.
declare them as surplus. That would be, the motion would be to suspend the rules to declare them as surplus.
Which ones?
Football. I was on the wrong page.
Okay.
I have Rodney Elliott
Football.
disease.
I just want to present, first of all, I attended a fundraiser, and Jim Leary was there too, last Saturday evening at the Bunting Club, and it was quite a bit of money raised for Lowell High School football scholarships. And I want to thank Tom Machado, Tom Shanahan, Kerry Machado, and many other people who attended. And what was brought up at that fundraiser was they're looking for parents to buy a complete jersey for the football players. And no, this is to buy for the entire team, buy a jersey, and they would sponsor that particular player. In other words, somebody could pick out their age, number 39, number 40, whatever. But that was presented at that fundraiser. I just want to bring that forward. And on this what's before us, how would this work? Would the school department receive a check for payment of a new jersey before the old jersey was given out, or how would that work?
Well, I think, Your Honor, we have done this in the past.
Okay.
Preceding your mayor's position, when the Lowell High girls softball team went to the state championships, as a reward to them,
Okay.
without any remuneration, they were here in the chambers, Your Honor, and we were swept up in the fury, and we awarded them all their jerseys. So I think that we can be swept up in the fury and award the seniors their jerseys, and then we'll leave it up to Mr. DeProfio to figure out how that remuneration would happen. Okay?
Okay.
With the report to come back, if he could send a report back to the full school committee about how that would happen, that way we don't have to work out the details tonight, we can just leave it up to him to make it happen.
Motion to declare the football jerseys as surplus, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Roll call. Right?
Right.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
And now we're on to basketball.
And now, well, Your Honor, there's one more vote for the football, I'm sorry. A vote authorizing the sale of the varsity, well, actually, you know what? I don't know if I like the second motion. Yeah, Your Honor, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to take that second motion, I'd like to send it to the athletic subcommittee. And here's the reason why. Somebody might not have $39.95 in their pocket to buy the jersey. So I would not like to set up an inequitable situation. And I'm not sure exactly what item number 2 would be. So if we could send that to the athletic subcommittee, and the athletic subcommittee will come back to the next
The overall
school.
surplus of the football jerseys?
Well, this says vote authorizing the sale.
I think, Ms. Fedicant, what we've done already is, yeah, I think.
But not every parent can afford to buy the jersey. This is the issue, Your Honor, and that's what I just said. Not every parent can afford to buy the jersey.
Then how are we going to replace that jersey?
Well, that's why I'd like this to go to the athletic subcommittee and meet with Mr. DeProfio to figure out exactly what
Then
this
that should be
process
done
would be.
before we taking a vote to
Right,
make
that's
these
why,
surplus.
that's why I'm not asking
Okay.
to vote on number 2. The vote on number 2, what I'm asking, Your Honor, is for the second bullet, for that entire motion to be sent to the athletic subcommittee. This athletic subcommittee will come back to the next meeting with a report on that one, Your Honor. And that would be item number 2 on the football game jerseys.
So we just took a roll call vote to...
For number
declare
1, which is okay,
that the
because that
varsity
was,
jerseys are surplus.
yes, that's
This-
not a problem.
The second vote would be to
Send
send
that
this
to
to
the
the
athletic subcommittee, please.
subcommittee.
Yes.
Motion by Ms. Fattacani to send that to the athletic subcommittee, seconded by Ms. Martin. Any
Second, could
questions?
I also ask one question? What we might want to do is at that subcommittee, where we're already charging Mr. DeProfio with coming up with a system, that should be a key component of that system.
Absolutely.
How that's going to be addressed, should that be a situation. He'll be much better tuned to the students that we're working with. And
that
so
way
if
we
he
could-
can come prepared for that, we could take a vote that night and
Right.
be done.
And that way we could develop a policy, Your Honor, so that in the future, we would know exactly how to handle it, because if it's happening now, it's going to happen again, so we'll develop a
And
policy.
these are senior jerseys, right?
Yes, Your Honor, they are.
Does anyone know how many there would be?
I do not, well, Your Honor, the Thanksgiving game day, Coach Al Pear said that many of his players were seniors. So I could imagine 15 to 20 jerseys, leaving the ranks, and that's okay. But let's figure out how we're going to make that, how we'd like that to happen.
Yeah.
Okay?
And as I indicated at that fundraiser, the Friends of the Lowell High School Football Committee are trying to get people to sponsor, like $150 to buy a jersey with a particular number on it, and sponsor that senior, that youngster on that football field. Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no problem with it going to the athletic subcommittee. I think that makes perfect sense. I just want to bring up one issue, that if we do decide, we have to think forward in terms of what happens with senior athletes next year and other sports. Whatever policy comes before this committee has to think long range. I'd like to be fair, make sure that any senior who wants a shirt is able to purchase one or gets help purchasing one. But we also have to think about, the costs going forward. We can't just give out shirts to seniors. We don't have that kind of budget. And that would be my concern.
And I think at that subcommittee, you should do some research over the next 5 years, how much that would cost for graduating seniors, whether it's in hockey, basketball, football, or whatever. And, no. So, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Do we take up basketball now?
As I stated at the last meeting,
Okay.
oh,
No, we're still,
Suspend the rules, make a motion to suspend the rules, Your Honor?
okay, so
Oh, we
since
are?
we're,
Okay,
all right.
go ahead.
So we're still under the suspense of the rules, Your Honor. We'd like to talk about basketball game jerseys. We received an email, everybody on this committee received an email from Andrew McCabe asking if we could, as a committee, donate the used basketball jerseys to his middle school team, okay? So we're still under suspension. We would vote to declare 26 used basketball game jerseys as surplus. I spoke with Mr. Lang tonight. He assures me that A.D. DeProfio has indicated that these jerseys are no longer in use. They are just simply sitting in the closet because youngsters have got new uniforms.
Yeah.
So if we declare them as surplus, then we're allowed to give them away.
yeah. So motion to
Yes.
declare that the 26 used basketball jerseys are surplus, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante,
Yes?
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Motion number 2.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion authorizing the donation of the 26 used basketball game jerseys that we just declared surplus to the Lowell Boys Traveling Basketball Program.
Seconded by Mr. Leary. Roll call. That was easy.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Personnel reports?
Thank you. You are in receipt of the personnel report dated November the 24th. Are there any questions?
Accept the communication by Superintendent Scott. Motion to accept the communication by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. All in favor, accepting the communication? Yes.
Place
No
on
problem.
file.
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to request that a letter be sent to the retirees, thanking them for their service to schools.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We usually send a letter, Your Honor. The motion is accept the retirements and a letter be sent, because the committee does like to send a letter to our retirees, thanking them for their years of service.
Okay. Madam Superintendent, can we make sure that
Oh.
letter?
Sure, most definitely.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, let me finish. Accept the communication, place it on file by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. All in favor?
Aye.
Communications placed on file. Okay. List of eligible teachers.
List of eligible teacher report is also in your, oh, sorry. Yes, list of eligible teacher report is also in your packet dated November the 24th. Are there any questions?
Okay, any questions?
Move approval, Your Honor.
Move approval by Ms. Fattacante, seconded by Ms. Martin. Accept the communication, place it on file by Ms. Fattacante, seconded by Ms. Martin. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The list of eligible teachers has been accepted and placed on file. New business. Lowell hockey coach Bill Donohue.
I don't believe we have any new
I'm
business,
sorry,
Your
I'm
Honor.
sorry, I'm sorry. Convention and conference request, I'm sorry.
Let's take them separately.
Your Honor, may I be allowed to speak? We're looking at 2 conference requests tonight, and I don't want to say I told you so, but I'm going to take a little bit of glee here and say, I told you so. The first request, these people want to take a Friday and a Monday to go away and play a scrimmage. They're going to take a school day. Since when did we allow people to leave school to simply play a scrimmage? It's never been done. And Your Honor, I don't think it should be done this time either. Because what are we saying to kids? It's okay to screw off from school, because school's not important. And if they want to do a scrimmage, then they can certainly do it during Christmas vacation,
Is this
not during a day off.
These scrimmages during school hours or at night?
This is, okay, then, I'm sorry, Your Honor, the second one. You know, I have a little pneumonia, so I'm not thinking quite. Okay, so,
You want to try standing up here for a while?
I know, I got that Rodney Elliott thing going on. So, well, but let me just talk about the second one since I'm on it. Again,
Everything you just said.
last week, everything I said for the first one, for the second one. Since when did we say it's okay just to take a couple of days off because we want to go to Canada? Your Honor, we might have agreed to this last year, and I must say, if I said yes without realizing it wasn't February vacation, shame on me. Because tonight, I realize this is not February vacation, and why can't these kids go on February vacation? Why do they have to take time out of school just to take a joy trip? Yes, Your Honor, going to another country is a wonderful experience. But it's taking, this could be done on February vacation.
Could I be the mediator here?
Go ahead, be the mediator.
And let's have the superintendent, let's bring this up at the next school committee meeting and find out what's the necessity of going to Quebec on those 2 school days. Maybe it's an educational program, I don't know.
It's a bus trip.
Madam Superintendent?
I already asked that question, Your Honor, just in light of the conversation that we had at the last meeting with regards to the trips. And I do believe that Ms. Vanchkatty's position on it is correct, that they are returning on the Monday after they have, you know, an extensive agenda when they are there. And I would find it helpful to have some direction from the committee on what the policy will be in the future so that they don't come to the floor if that's the wish.
So, Your Honor, may I make a suggestion? Since the reason we do this is a safety issue, because the reason we take this vote is so that our insurance extends to these youngsters and these teachers and administrators who are taking these trips. That's why it's voted on, so that they're covered insurance-wise. I would say that the safety subcommittee needs to sit down and create a policy, the policy that we can all live with, that determines when people can take time out of school and when they can't. I appreciate your position of wanting to be the mediator, but I think we send the wrong message when we say, it's okay to take time out of school. Not a big deal.
Well, February 6th and 9th, it's a long way off. It's 2 months.
Right, so that's why,
And
let's.
Is there a way we could reach out and find out what is so important to go there? Maybe it's an educational experience for these kids, I don't know. Can we find that out?
Well,
Madam Superintendent?
I could read the agenda, like I do have that information. But I would also just, in support of the concern, I would like to say, it is difficult terrain that we're traveling here, because we do ask our parents to have their children in school and not take them out of school for trips,
Right.
et cetera. So I just want us to be
Absolutely.
cognizant of that position, so that
Right.
we're not saying and
And we're not,
supporting one thing.
right, we're not being consistent.
I'm just concerned with that.
You know, we say to parents, no, you can't take your kid to Disney World the week after February vacation. Those are not excused absences. Well, if the parent wanted to make a school trip, then it would be an excused absence. It's not acceptable.
I no longer want to be the mediator.
Okay, so I'm going to,
I just received information here, depart for tobogganing, enjoy a ferry boat ride on the icy St. Lawrence River, dinner at this restaurant, dinner at that restaurant, and I don't see anything where we're going to language schools.
thank you. So I'm ready to deny them both. Deny, I'm sorry, Rodney Elliott disease. Deny the second one.
What's that? This is,
I said I have Rodney Elliott disease. I'm surprised you didn't catch that the first time I said it. So let's agree to the first one, and then let's agree to the first one. So I'm making a motion to separate the two requests.
okay. Delay the second.
Okay, we'll delay the second.
Delay.
But let's vote on the
And delay,
first.
and let someone come and prove to me.
Right.
Who was very frugal, how important this trip is.
They get
Yes.
tomorrow by 4:20 Friday afternoon.
So, right now, we're on the Lowell High School. Yes, Dave.
I just want to mention a couple things here before we vote on this. There's,
We're going to delay it. That's what we're going to do.
okay. But what we have is, we've talked about the safety issue. We've also talked about the attendance. In the last couple meetings we've had, we've also talked about the cost. And I think our last meeting, I think you, Mr. Mayor, mentioned something about this has to stop. We
Right.
can't afford it.
Right.
And if I recall, I think something was said on after January, that's it, it's over. And again, I don't think we can continue to pay for these conferences and conventions, because I don't think we can afford it. And I think we're going to be faced with some situations that we're going to have to make some difficult cuts. And I think the superintendent needs some direction on this. Because what's going to happen is next week, the next school committee meeting, there are going to be more conventions and more conferences set up, and there's a precedent that has already been set for the year before and the year before, and I'm really not sure how to handle that at this particular time, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure whether we should, again, is this going to be handled in the subcommittee meeting in safety? And we're also going to talk about the cost, too?
Yes, we will talk about the cost in light of our shrinking budget. Yes, Mr. Conway.
And I really do think that some good is going to come out of this, that when this request or request such as this reaches the desk of the superintendent, someone has to prove to somebody that this trip is warranted. And maybe we should form an ad hoc subcommittee for any trips or whatever that might be taken. Yes, Mr.
Just real quick, there's a couple issues. The first issue, what Ms. Fedicani clearly articulated, you're missing too much time for school for something that's, Carnival was cool. I've been to Carnival, but it's better when you're out over 21, believe me. The other issue, which I clearly agree with Ms. Fedicani, you shouldn't be coming back. If there's a way they can come back, leave Friday and come back late Sunday night, that's pretty cool. I used to take trips to Montreal when I played hockey. We left Friday afternoon, we came back late Sunday night. So there's ways that they can work it out. Regarding the cost issue, last meeting, there was a statement made that we're going to be sending this to the personal subcommittee to look at these issues.
Right.
I believe that's going to be done in early January. It's going to be actually a dual or co-subcommittee between finance and personnel. Mr. Conway points out correctly that we have a very challenging budget year, and any monies that we can ascertain right now could help save jobs next year. And something that is already in progress, being the Christmas season and holiday season, excuse me, that's going to be taken up the first part of January. So I think Ms. Fedicani is correct. We should vote on the first issue, approve it. The second issue, we should refer back to the superintendent. If it stands as it is today with the information provided, I would vote no. I'm sure my colleagues have articulated they would vote no, and we can move forward. Thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. Just to be clear, because I do think that in some ways we combine in this area of our meeting every other week, both our actual convention and conference requests, which are staff requests for staff to attend, professional development. I think my colleague, Mr. Conway, is absolutely correct that monies for that are going to be in extremely short supply. They are now, and the situation will only worsen in the next 18 months. But I do think that we should be specific that what we are discussing today are student trips. These are trips that are paid for by students who choose to attend on a voluntary basis, and that really the cost we're looking at, it is a cost, but the cost we're looking at is substitutes for the teachers who travel as the chaperones. So the cost we're talking about for the specific one is a $300 expense for basically 3 substitutes for these 3 teachers to be out of their classrooms on that Monday. The other thing I do think we need to be clear about is that, and again, as Ms. Faticanti has said, this is not new news at the high school or within the Lowell Public Schools. I know, particularly when this issue came up the last time, I was approached. There was staff who told me that the first thing that had been said to the teacher who had initially planned the trip that we discussed 2 weeks ago had been told very clearly that that was going to be an issue, that the school committee was going to have a problem with missing school. It went through the process. It was approved by the administration at the high school, came to us, and lo and behold, there was a problem. It was obviously the will of this committee as a whole to let it go, and the majority of this body chose to allow that to happen. And again, now we find ourselves very soon after in the exact same situation. So while there is an understanding, I think, at the high school of what the school committee's priorities are in regards to student trips and the importance we place on attendance, these are still being approved. And I think it's unfortunate because teachers are doing the right thing. They're asking for approval, they're getting it, and then unfortunately it comes here when student deposits have been taken and children have made plans, and we find ourselves in the very unfortunate circumstance of saying yes or no to a trip that never should have been approved in the first place because the committee's will on this has been, I believe, crystal clear. So I do welcome the opportunity for whatever amalgam of subcommittees want to get together and discuss this. But I do think that it would be in everyone's best interest, and let's be clear, at the end of the day, most specifically in students' best interest, that we do not yank the carpet out from underneath them when, I'm sure we can all remember our high school days, how life and death student trips could be. So I'll look forward to this committee working together to come up with a reasonable policy.
Ms. Martin, where did you get this information on?
I had it in, it was attached in my packet with Mr. Samaras' letter approving the trip, so it had come as part of that.
Then information like this should be also brought to the committee so we can look at it. Because I thought this was going to be an educational trip, and tobogganing is an education for me. Ms. Doherty? Ms. Doherty, did you have a question? Okay, so,
I'd like to discuss the first convention when we're ready to move on that one,
well,
because I think
as
it's all
long as
clear
we're-
that we're going
as
to,
long as we're on the second one, why don't we take a vote to delay,
let's
Motion to
delay the
delay.
second one.
motion to delay.
Item number 2.
The trip to Quebec, second by Ms. Doherty. Let's take a roll call on that, so we'll know we're dotting the I and crossing the T.
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, to delay, approved.
Now, the Lowell High School hockey program. Ms. Doherty.
Yes, Your Honor. Noticing that the Lowell High hockey team wants to attend a number of scrimmages over this weekend, beginning Friday, December 5th, which their schedule says they will leave the Songus Arena at 2:35 in the afternoon on Friday, which is after school gets out, and they will return back to the Songus Arena for practices on Sunday afternoon. I would make a motion to support this convention
Motion to
request.
support the request from the hockey program by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin. Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Communications, Madam Superintendent?
Yes. The first communication from Terry Garish. To the members of the Lowell School Committee, I wish to thank you for taking the time to stand in my father's honor at the November 5th meeting. That you would do so for the family member of a relatively new employee is both humbling and another example of the generosity of spirit that so typifies those who represent the people of Lowell. My father spent most of his adult life in public service, one of the reasons I became a public school teacher. Your action was most appreciated. Again, my thanks, Terry Garish.
Motion to accept the communication, Your Honor, place it on file.
Motion to accept the communication by Ms. Fattacante, second by Ms. Martin, place it on file. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That request is, the communication has been placed on file. And then we have another
Yes, this is,
communication from Mr. Meehan.
this is from the Meehan's. Joe and Nancy. Dear Dr. Scott, on behalf of my family, we would like to thank you and your administration, Mayor Edward C. Caulfield, the Lowell School Committee, and the Lowell City Council for the wonderful ceremony dedicating the Library Media Center at the Sullivan Middle School in memory of my mother. We truly appreciate the extraordinary work you and your staff exhibited in organizing and coordinating this very special day. I would like to especially acknowledge and thank Assistant Superintendent Jay Lang and School Department Mary Bator for their efforts in all behind-the-scenes work it took to make this such a happy day for our family. In recognition of my mother's teaching philosophy of instilling a joy for learning and inspiring the student to perform well above their own expectations, I have enclosed a $500 check on behalf of my family for use by the Library Media Center at the Sullivan Middle School. I thank you again for this wonderful honor the City of Lowell has bestowed on my mother by dedicating the Library Media Center at the Sullivan Middle School in her name. Sincerely, Joe Meehan.
Isn't that wonderful? Just wonderful.
make a
Just-
motion to accept, place it on file, Your Honor?
Motion to accept
Thank you.
the $500 gift to the Agnes Meehan Library, seconded by Mr. Leary. Why don't we take a roll call to accept that $500 donation?
Goes to the Meehan Library. Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Miss Doherty.
Yes.
Miss Fattacante. Yes. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Miss Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Anything else before we adjourn?
That's all, Your Honor.
Well, Your Honor, we do have a communication from the superintendent.
We do.
We do. I'm going to read it. It says, "Hello all. I forgot to tell you something in my FYI memo. I published a book last week entitled Cape Breton Wonders. It was big news back home, as well as big as it can get in Cape Breton. I've attached the article about the book launch that appeared in the Cape Breton Post. Another story will appear in the Halifax Herald this coming weekend. I'll send you a copy of the story along with an autographed copy of the book in the next FYI packet. Maybe if some of our students want to go there, that we might reconsider that. But so just to read you a small little blurb of the what was appeared in the Cape Breton Post. Moore's sister, Shirley Everett, is retired after more than 30 years of teaching in Nova Scotia, and her longtime friend and colleague, Chris Augustus Scott, has been a classroom teacher and a school principal in rural Nova Scotia and Halifax. She is currently superintendent of schools for Lowell Public, one of the largest urban school districts in Massachusetts. Thank you, Your Honor. Congratulations.
Thank you. And my wife and I are going to visit Nova Scotia this spring or
Well, you know,
summer.
I think the school
And
committee should send
probably
ourselves on a
Nova Scotia
trip.
will never be the same, probably.
Road trip.
But,
Road trip,
before
only
we-
if it's during vacation.
Before we adjourn, I brought it to Jay Lang's attention. He already knows about it, and being a member of the YMCA, there is a new law, congressional law, that every single swimming pool in the country, must meet rigid standards. There's a new bill, the Virginia Graham Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act. Former Secretary of State James Baker's granddaughter died in a horrible accident in a spa where the drain actually pulled this youngster underneath the water and she drowned. And it was a horrific, horrific accident. So, this bill is going to demand every pool in the city, in the state, and in the country to meet these rigid requirements. And Lowell High School's pool is no different. And from what I understand, they have to meet those rigid requirements by December 19th. And if we don't, the water comes out of the pool, because the fine for not living up to these standards is immense, in the millions of dollars. So I talked to the manager today, and I talked to Jay. Jay's on top of it, and I believe Jay's had some discussions with some pool companies, whatever. But this is something we cannot overlook, and it doesn't just affect Lowell. It's Chelmsford, Tewksbury, Billerica, everyone who has a swimming program, it affects them. So we're going to have to address this and come up with the necessary funds to do it. Okay? Any discussion? Motion to adjourn by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Fattacani. Thank you for a great meeting.
Okay, you adjourned at 8:10.